You're listening to the Oneofus.net podcast network. In the end stretch, people. in the final. Meanwhile, George Martin is like, I want to see what happens next.
We're in the fan service stretch.
Yeah, we're at the part of like everyone's waiting for. Oh shit! Now it's happening.
We've overcome.
Starts. It's a payoff now.
We've overcome our major obstacle to the storyline, which of course has been George Martin himself. It's like, out of the way, fatty. We got shit to do.
Some of us would like to see the end before winter actually comes.
It's time to start killing some people that you actually want to see killed.
Yeah, I love the title of the season is Winter is Here, but the book actually with winter in the title is who knows when it's going to come out.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the new title is, I believe, Winter.
Or global warming.
Yeah, well, this is the day after tomorrow version.
Winter might not actually arrive.
The day after tomorrow would have made way more sense if they were trying to outrun the Night King and not just like the concept of cold.
You mean Bronn?
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
I think they probably could have wrapped things up a little sooner if the Starks had just changed their house motto to "fucking dead people are coming."
Yeah, right. It must be a little more specific.
We were using a metaphor for death.
There's zombies here. Well, we are reviewing this season, and this is a spoiler review, so you haven't seen it, and you I don't want anything spoiled for me. This is not the podcast to listen to, and we will be doing some projection as to what we think will be happening in the final season. ! I'm Chris.
I'm Kim.
I'm Kat.
I'm Harris.
Beau.
Kim, you are new to recording with us. You want to real quick say a little something about yourself?
Brand spanking new. Long-time listener. First time.
Podcaster?
First time podcaster. But I've been a big Game of Thrones fan forever, so watch out for me.
You feel prepared. You feel like you have some things to say.
I have a lot of things to say, and I hope George R.R. Martin is listening.
Were you a book reader, and then you're like, now I'm going to watch the show, because
exactly.
I was just like, I've heard about those things. Those sound like Tolkien, which can be laborious to read.
Nope.
So.
They had me at Zombies and Dragons and mythical stuff.
I made it to the third book before I kind of fell off. But I think part of it is that I was reading on my Kindle, and I have found I'm one of those people who, statistically speaking, doesn't remember things that are read on Kindles. Like, studies have been done where I'm one of those people where I need to have a paper book.
I'm the same way. I enjoy the Kindle, but it's better for short stories.
Yeah, I need to be able to, locate the words in literal physical space. Otherwise, it's like, wow, it's enjoyable while I'm reading it, but I have absolutely... only the vaguest snippets of memory as to what happened.
If it makes you feel better, in the next 10 years, everything's going to be like that.
Well, right. But the only people I know with Kindles are actually people who read 50 Shades of Grey. So, when you say short and to the point, is that what you mean?
I resent that remark. I've got a lot of fucking Terry Pratchett on my fucking Kindle, and I haven't read any Twilight fan fiction whatsoever.
I just want to point out that I had to read it for work.
I'm just glad that Harris reads things on his Kindle, because it has the little self-illuminating screen, and so when we're in bed, I can actually sleep while he's up forever reading.
Well, I will say, going back, skipping way past the Kindle and onto the subject. My dad is the one who actually turned me onto these books, who was a lifelong...
back in the 80s when they started.
Right. My dad's a lifelong Lord of the Rings fanatic. He's only had one other fantasy series. He was like, this is worth reading too, which was Stephen Donaldson's Chronicles of Thomas Covenant and the Unbeliever.
Honestly, when you say the story, I feel like this poor guy. He's been waiting 30 years for this story to happen.
Well, he's dead now. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's thanks, George.
I did not
Thanks a lot.
Oh, no.
But my greatest fear that Trump will nuke us before I can see season 8.
Oh, we definitely don't want to go there on this
Nuclear
podcast.
winter is coming.
Yeah, but you gave us a good opportunity for a really bad joke, and now we're going to move on.
Point being, when he said, this is worth reading, I like this on the same level that I like Tolkien and Thomas Covenant. I was like,
wow.
So I was like,
Yeah,
I gotta pick
that is
this
high
shit
praise.
up.
Yeah.
And I think it is borne out for our entire culture as this being one of the biggest cultural fantasy memes that we've had since Tolkien. For sure. I mean, Jesus Christ, this thing is like the water cooler show of all water cooler shows, unless you're cool enough to have watched all of Twin Peaks 30 times like me and be really excited about what's going on right there.
Yeah, this is a show where where the stuff that happens in it becomes cultural touchstones. Because now when you talk about the Red Wedding or the Viper versus the Mountain, everybody knows what the hell you're talking about, even if they don't watch the show.
I miss the Viper. I'm just saying, I thought that was one of those, like, really that fast? Okay.
He didn't have to monologue.
Yeah.
It was his own fault.
Well, that's what I was through the whole thing. I was like, just fucking end it. You're
not a Bond villain. Just do it.
Nope.
You're giving him time to wake up.
We get that he killed your father. He's prepared to die. Go!
Later. We can talk about this later, guys.
Well, let's get into this season. Right off the bat, starting strong with Arya, who has turned into, like, the neophyte, like, assassin into full-blown, complete John Wick fantasy-level badass.
Well, no, this was, for my money, this was the best season opening, period. It's just like, all right, you've been waiting for some payoff for about 4 years now. Here you go, kids.
Yeah, she just wipes out House Frey, and you're just like, that was, and to some extent, like, in the bigger picture, like, you can picture the writers going, these guys probably aren't going to picture, we can't find a place for them in the final endgame, so let's just kill them all.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of cast thinning going on in the first, like, 2-3 episodes.
How did you all feel about Arya having the best opener of a season, and then no one mentioning it?
Oh, I thought lots of people mentioned.
No one
talked
said
about
anything.
the fact that the Fraser...
The Fraser gone. No one said it on the show.
Not even like an aside.
I mean, there's at this point there's not, it's not like that's going to come up in casual conversation because every fucking other horrible thing is happening.
Yeah, the phrase.
It's been months and months and months.
The phrase are so negative 7,000 in like AD. You know,
I think it's more along the lines of like the phrase are basically the creepy Texas Chainsaw family of Westeros, where technically yes they're a great house, but they keep it themselves and everybody likes it better that way.
Well, and they make it a point that even the people that were hardcore against the Starks were like,
horrified.
wait, you killed a bunch of people at your wedding? That's at a wedding, when you offer them your hospitality, that's fucked up.
Yeah,
dude. Fuck you guys.
They weren't like a super important major ally of anybody, like critical ally.
They were a game changer in the show.
Yeah.
Well, they were, but only because of the Red Wedding. Well, and that, because they were willing to.
Their importance had everything to do with they just happened to have a castle that was literally on a major thoroughfare.
Yeah. They're strategically located, but anybody who holds that spot can perform that function. And it wasn't like they were helping with, like, the game intrigue. Nobody saw them as really
there's not a
strong political allies.
Like,
we can't use the phrase.
What are your motivations? Oh, you just like to marry your young relatives.
Yeah.
Cersei has said throughout the season, we don't have any allies in the country. We have to take back our land. If there was just a throwaway line of we lost the Freys, we lost
I think they made it clear that the Freys were
Boltons,
useless
we
in the
lost all
previous
these
season.
people.
Yeah, but the phrase the Boltons. I don't think Cersei thinks they're important. She doesn't see them as loyal and trustworthy.
But as of right now, no one really calls her the true king of the seven.
And she doesn't have any more
kingdoms.
banners to call at this
There are
point.
no banners.
Yeah.
She has to go across seas to even get people to fight for her, and she has to pay them.
She has Euron and his fleet, and then she's got the Golden Army, I believe, the Golden Company, which is the bank company.
The idea
is even a part of the Seven Kingdoms, though.
Technically, no, I don't think so.
I don't think they are.
No,
but
well, they're not one of they're not one of the Seven Kingdoms per se. But they've been a protectorate for a long time. It's like Puerto Rico isn't a fucking state, but
Yeah, and honestly, Hot Topic Captain Hook is not exactly the most reliable of allies.
Well, yeah, and that's it. They're just like, well, I've relied on Euron. He's going to go across he's going to take a lot of money from the bank, and he's going to go across the seas, and, oh, maybe I haven't thought this up.
Yeah, I was honestly expecting when this was coming up, they would cast a rock star in that role. I'm kind of surprised they didn't, because it seems to be a tendency throughout Game of Thrones. Throw in little corners of, musicians.
Yeah, that's why we got Eddie Sheeran
in this season, Ed Sheeran, which I have no idea who the fuck that was. So when this sequence happened in this first episode that everyone was bitching about, it took me out of it. I was like, what scene? There was who was the guy?
It was the guy in the Lannister camp who was complaining about the fact that Taylor Swift wouldn't fuck him.
Yeah, it was like one of those. After I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. I guess I see if you're hyper familiar with the guy, but I came from the point of a guy who watches so much television and constantly sees the same actors appearing and stuff. I never am like, look who it is, and everything.
I was more because, the kind of nice kid that she was talking to that wasn't Ed Sheeran was the kid from This Is England, which is one of my favorite movies. I was like, oh, hey, look, it's that guy.
Yeah, it was Pete Postlewaite's son, and he didn't get the family cheekbones.
Nope.
But, right off the bat, we see, Samwell finding the solution to, how you kill the zombies with the dragon glass.
Well, that was a couple of seasons.
No, although he did figure out how to cure leprosy, so well done, Sam.
True.
By reading the instructions and following them.
By literally cutting all of this shit off, which you'd think might have occurred to someone.
And we see Daenerys first arrive at basically come to the main continent and arrive at Dragonstone. So it was like a big opener off.
That was a great opening moment, too.
We've pared down the cast and we've brought them geographically closer together. So we've got a much tighter storyline going and much more focused. And I think that's the thing about this season. This season was way more focused, I think.
Especially since Westeros has apparently become a temporal anomaly that you can travel across in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's got the same wormholes that Los Angeles does in 24.
I was like, are they sliding? What's happening now? But anyway, that happens later. I will say, it was nice. We don't see a lot of Grey Worm and Missandei getting a lot of stuff on their own, and them hooking up. I was like, but what happened? I feel like I both want and don't want more details with that love scene.
I don't think you need any.
I think you got a pretty good idea of what happened.
Yeah, you are aware that people that have absolutely no penises make love to each other all the fucking time.
Oh, yeah, and we saw Hot Pie again this season.
Speaking of.
Let's not forget, has opened his own Game of Thrones-themed bakery.
He's killing the game. Thrones.
Yeah, man. Well done. You found your niche.
Also, we had... You want to talk about, trimming the fat... We finally cut off the head of the Sand Snake plotline, and oh, thank fucking God.
I have mixed feelings about
that because I love that plotline.
I really like Dorne. I don't think it was necessarily well handled from the beginning, but yeah, all during the ultimate episode, I was waiting for somebody to go yes, we're all going to go up north and fight that. Should we maybe go down and talk to the people in Dorne? And have Cersei go nah, we good. We good.
This is one of those times where because of the differences between the book and the show, the Dorne plotline in the books are completely different. It is way more involved. It doesn't have this sudden, all right, we're going to introduce the King of Dorne and his family, and now he's dead.
Right.
And so, and we also don't have the really awkward, you like the bad pussy thing. It's just characters who are just so badly written and acting choices that kind of make you scratch your head. So it's a little hard to see it as a net negative to see the end of those characters, or at least for now. That's probably
they felt like they had a lot of potential, and they never live up to it.
Well, and they really Mary Sued Daenerys out at the end of last season, where it's just now you've got the biggest fleet in the world, and you've got 3 fucking dragons, you've got the best light cavalry in the world, and you've got a fucking army of starker insane infantrymen.
Yeah, at this point, Cersei,
you're probably going to win.
Cersei has to roll double sixes the entire rest of the game.
Right.
And then in the following episode, watching the end of Olenna Martell, and Oh God! If there was ever the best death scene in this series,
No, you mean
that's not the best
Martell.
death scene.
Elena
Tyrell.
Yes,
Yeah.
Watching her death scene.
Oh yeah.
And watching her, even in her death scene, basically be able to go down, giving Cersei double fingers the entire way.
And by the way, I killed Joffrey. Go fuck yourself. I loved that. I will say the grossest thing I've ever seen in this whole show happen in the season as well, which, as you guys mentioned earlier,
The pot pie.
was Sam peeling off the skin of the grayscale.
You think that was grosser than...
I was so...
The transition from that to the pot pie was grosser.
Yeah, that was pretty gross.
Then the skull crushing of...
That was
the
way
mountain,
worse.
no, I think the skull crushing
No,
was
because I didn't rewind and watch the peeling off the grayscale scene 5 or 6 times. So I will go, no, it was not as gross.
Yeah, agreed.
So we've already skipped over the sand snakes, but I feel like they were such a strong side plot for 2 seasons.
But it felt like it was going to add up to more than it did.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like they should bring them back. They should bring back the mom, because obviously at this point
We know
needs
she's
vengeance.
still alive.
She needs
Yeah.
vengeance. She's not dead. Cersei's already said, "I want to be as alive as long as possible to see your daughter
Somebody's got to
rot."
be going down and checking on her and bringing her food and water.
So my main thought with that whole plot line of Cersei torturing these people or the Sand Snakes is, oh, I bet you wish you didn't kill your whole family now. Because no one cares about you at this point. No one's coming to save you.
Yeah, and it's kind of like one of the. We're jumping a little bit ahead, but one of the greatest memes that came from the season finale was a picture of Cersei saying, "I thought you had 3 dragons," and Daenerys responding with, "I thought you had 3 kids."
Oh,
Ouch.
Damn, burn. By the way, I strongly suspect one of the things we're going to see next season with Cersei being pregnant, she's going to lose the baby, and she is going to completely go more unhinged than she already is.
I thought we were saving the theories for later.
Yeah, we
because
are.
I
We
do
are.
not
You
think
and
that Cersei is pregnant.
Me
I
either.
do not
I was
think she's
gonna say, I
pregnant.
think we're on the
You think
same.
she's faking
nope,
it?
I think
she's
she's
faking
completely
it.
faking. The prophecy says she will have 3 children,
And
I don't even think she's going to be able to conceive a 4th child.
that doesn't
even
mean
if
That don't mean
wanted.
she's not pregnant.
Yeah.
That just
I don't
means
think
she ain't going to have a kid.
She can be pregnant.
I think that she's just a little too whenever she tells somebody she's pregnant, it's just a little too convenient.
It's
Yeah.
it's always a manipulation.
Yeah,
always.
and she's
She's always like fake.
Yeah,
putting
like
her down.
the
It's too
like
much, it's
not
too much.
drinking
Yeah.
the wine that Tyrion offers her, or
Well, I mean, I don't.
he's always
I
like,
really
drinking wine,
don't. I
just
don't
not
think
on
they
camera.
have. I don't think they have a sense of not drinking while you're pregnant in this.
No, probably not.
reality.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the things. Like, one of the most important things, I think, has been the reunions that have been throughout this entire season. Because we've had Arya and Sansa come back together.
Yay!
For the first time since season 1.
Yep.
We saw...
And Bronn.
yes.
Yeah.
Ironically, the 2 bestest buddies in the whole cast, because they never worked together.
They aren't exactly Han and Chewie, but after the big, final episode, go fuck yourself, Littlefinger, I'm kind of like, maybe you are.
Well,
Han
yeah,
and
but
Chewie.
in real life, Maisie Williams and Sophie Turner are they're BFFs.
Oh, I didn't know
normally.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, they totally
yeah,
go
they're
on really well.
they're a whole set of memes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So
They're like
you,
the Ian McKellen and Sir Patrick
Uh-huh.
Stewart.
Nice.
Very, very
so
much.
you know how everyone films in different locations and they don't really talk to each other? I really strongly feel like in Winterfell there was a memo that went out that said, "Hey guys, we're all robots / we're too cool for this, so we're not going to emote this season." Winterfell felt really cold to me. It
So to
started with
speak.
Bran.
Yeah. Well, I think that was
Pun
a,
intended.
that's intense.
But
That's
it
a
started
very-
with Bran,
yeah,
and then it
intentional,
moved
yeah.
on to Arya. Because even last season, at the end of last season with Arya, her last line was, "I'm Arya of Winterfell, and I'm going home." There was so much passion and emotion in that line. And then she shows up this season being an assassin, like a cold assassin.
I feel like she has something to prove, and these are the people she needs to prove it
Yeah,
to.
and also honestly, I think part of the reason why Winterfell is so cold is everybody's got fucking PTSD at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. They've had half the people they know die.
They've had half the people they know die, and they've all gone through hell in one form or another.
And I think that we also needed, not only like Beau was saying, where that acting choice of that cold feeling personally, kind of contributes, to the winter is coming part, but I think we needed to feel like are they all gonna get along okay? Because they've been split up for a really long time, and they basically don't know each other anymore. And so I think
yes, and when they do get to know each other, they're like, "Oh well, you become a murder machine, and now you are a three-eyed crow." Was that it?
And I fed my husband to his dogs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would see it as a manufactured conflict.
It was completely manufactured. The Stark conflict of the season made no sense. It never made sense.
You mean between Arya and Sansa?
Arya and Sansa was the biggest plot point.
I mean,
it
was manufactured by Littlefinger. It was but then let's see, we.
But as an audience, the whole time we're all like, this doesn't make any sense.
But it does. It does. And it wasn't.
Do you not have siblings?
And I do, and I've never wanted to kill any of them. We've had conflicts, many conflicts, but I've never wanted to murder any of them. So,
well, was there any point where they wanted to murder each other? Yeah, I think they established that at the end game was like, we figured this shit out.
They come back, and there is that moment of like, hey, where have we all been? Let's figure out who we are now,
and also
now. But there's the whole bit with like the manufactured conflict. Littlefinger did not manufacture that conflict. He tried to manufacture that conflict, and they saw that he was trying to manufacture that conflict, so they gave him that conflict so they could lull him into a false sense of security that he had played all of them so that they could take him out.
Okay, but I kind of like go the other way. I think they fell into it, and then we just didn't see the scene where they figured out what was happening.
And also, we're dealing with a reality that is more akin to ancient Rome, where poisoning your in-laws is a fun parlor game, as opposed to something you trade that you would never do.
Now, one thing that really kind of, I think, backs up Kat's idea that this was completely made, like, the conflict was completely made up and for show, is that every time you see Littlefinger in this season, you always hear ravens in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. You can go back and watch it, and it's like a really subtle clue that Bran has been watching him this entire time.
I thought you were going to say that he's only with Sansa. And Sansa's playing him this whole time.
Oh, no, I don't think she was, but I think that's the whole thing, is that the reason they figured out what was going on is because the scene we didn't see is Bran going, hey guys, just so you know, Littlefinger set all that stuff up.
I would have loved to see that scene, though. That's my biggest complaint. I wanted
I'll give you that.
Brand is a three-eyed raven. Let me see him be
But then the payoff wouldn't have been as effective at the end with the big twist.
And at the same time, I think that we're all underestimating how much Sansa has learned.
Yeah. Like, she never trusted.
She's a slow learner, but she does learn.
I think she underestimates herself with that line. I disagreed with her line there, because she's done nothing but learn since she got to the Red Keep
the hard way.
Season 1. Exactly.
That conversation between her and Arya where like they're both kind of like insinuating they both had it worse than the other was like, you both had it bad. Can we just agree on that?
But can we agree that Arya's had it worse?
I don't know.
I feel like
raped multiple times.
Okay, Arya hasn't been raped, but was Sansa blind and homeless for like a year? And beaten up?
I don't know.
I feel like Bran should roll in at this point and raise his hand and go, hands up, who can still walk?
So, I actually just watched our oldest and dearest friend get torn to shreds after I told him to stand there.
Yeah. And do what?
Hold the door.
Hey guys, you remember how Hodor never said anything but Hodor?
Well, it turns out it's not because he's a Pokemon.
I would like to take this moment to give a brief R.I.P. We hardly know you to the poor Dickon Tarley.
Dick off.
What was your name? Was it Rickon?
It was Dickon, yeah.
Dickon.
It should be pronounced Dickon, but yeah.
Ever since he's appeared on the show, he's gotten abuse, and then he gets blown away by dragons. I was like, aw.
Well, considering
he had a really baller death.
Well, yeah, but considering how he and his father, like, were horrible to Sandwell, they kind of earned it.
Well, no, you're right, but still, I was kind of like, you can't help but feel bad for the guy wherever he goes. They were like, what's your name? Okay, so moving on. First off, I guess we'll just kind of go to the big effects scenes here that dominated this season. When the moment Daenerys is like, I'm going to use my dragons. I'm using the dragons. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tyrion, step back. Tyrion's like, but maybe I've got some Targaryen blood. We'll find out later. For now, step back.
Yep.
And she,
sorry, we're fresh out of dragons now.
and she first totally, with ease devastates like the armies, Jaime's army coming back from taking out, where was it? The High
Garden.
The High Garden?
Yeah.
A little bit of a wound. Just a wound. Just a flesh wound for the dragons.
Drogon shrugs off a direct hit with the Scorpion.
Yeah.
And just the moment, it was bad enough, you could see the moment of Bronn and Jaime look like that, oh shit, we're in trouble moment as all of the Dothraki are riding up. But it's the instant that you hear the dragons screaming that you can tell that they both literally pissed themselves. There's like, oh, we're gonna die. We are gonna fucking die.
I do wish that there was some way to better, visually translate the dragon fear that people really should be feeling when a dragon, just even passes
It happened this last episode. The last episode, I feel like, in the Dragon's Pit, everyone was pissing themselves a little bit.
Even
Cersei had that look. Jaime had that look.
Yeah.
Bronn was like, let's go get a drink. I can't be here for this.
Well, Jaime was a little bit like, okay, I'm very nervous because I almost got killed, but at least I've been here before. Cersei's a little bit like, composure. Fuck.
Also, more than a little bit, bitch made an entrance. I should have made an entrance.
I was waiting for a character to go, she sure does know how to make an entrance.
She was so extra entering that pit, I can't even say.
She's just like, sorry, y'all, I'm late.
And the way
The dragon.
she didn't even have to, dismount. You know how, when you get off a horse, there, you've got to do the dismount.
Yeah.
She just kind of glides off of his, and he just, puts his wing down. And she just, melts off of him.
Yeah, they look at each other. You good?
Ground.
I'm good. We'll be back. Fly off.
Dany's biggest mistake in that scene was bringing two dragons.
Yeah, she only brought one.
Not even before Cersei mentioned it. As soon as I saw two dragons, I was like, you should have left one at home.
Yep.
Because I immediately questioned, why did you only bring two dragons if you're showing your force?
Yeah, exactly. She only needed one.
She only needed one.
When
the second one was such a background character, just leave it at home.
To be fair, when Jon said, well, I'm really hoping to ride a dragon home, she didn't know what he meant.
As we saw later.
Yeah, also, can I just say that I love, even to the very end, poor Jorah trying so hard to bank shot off the boat, hold off the boat sex that he knows is gonna happen. Oh, no, I think, Khaleesi should ride a dragon to the north by herself.
Jorah ain't never gonna get laid, son.
Poor Sir Friendzone.
It could be like a Twilight thing where he bones their kid. I would kind of watch that.
That's awesome.
There's enough, it's already going to be creepy enough that Daenerys is going to give birth to some sort of mutant flipper baby now that she's boned her nephew.
I mean,
Jorah would be into it because
as far as the Targaryens go, this is marrying 8 families
this is like marrying the girl next door. Generally, it's your fucking sister. I mean, at least they're separate the gene pool out. And plus, I don't know if you know a little bit about how, human real aristocracy works.
Yeah, that's how we.
But there's a long tradition of people fucking the people that are on their family tree.
Daenerys' parents, brother and sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this isn't even that weird.
No, they said for generations.
You don't understand how weird it is as a normal person in the real world to say to someone, I think an aunt and a nephew getting together is not that bad.
Yeah.
That's so weird for me to say to someone.
As everybody's been saying, season 1, ew, incest, gross. Season 7, yay, incest!
The most horrifying
I've been waiting 7 years for this.
The horrifying thing has been the hot takes on the internet of people's think pieces going, so, is Game of Thrones going to make us get over incest?
Plus, it's just every episode this season, since Jon set foot on Dragonstone, the direction to poor Emilia Clarke has been okay, every time you see this man, you are thirsty like you just walked out the damn stair. Because she's just the goo-goo eyes.
Remember those hot, dusty days in the Dothraki Sea?
Yes. Well, now she's hoping for a little 8 inches of snow.
Oh, yeah. I suspect we might be seeing from whoever owns the rights to the Taboo porn series, a new fantasy-themed series. Just saying. We're all like, yeah, it's aunt and nephew. That's not gross. Now, Cersei and Jaime, that's gross.
You guys are all pretending like there isn't fan fiction that's only about Sam and Dean Winchester.
Oh, yeah, Winchester?
There's, like...
Yeah.
50,000 fanfics
That
about
doesn't-
just
no,
this.
we
and
know
they're
it
brothers.
exists. They've addressed it.
Guys.
They've addressed it in the
the
show.
show.
Aunt and nephew are nothing.
You guys are acting like you've
When
never
I do
brought up
it, we read.
Pornhub. I'm sorry. But, yeah, just put incest porn in your
Yeah,
browser.
at least
See
then
what
it's
pops up.
Well, now you have to
step
replace
sibling?
one of the letters with X, and oh, sorry, no, I don't know that. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about the big, most controversial episode, the one before the last, with the attack, trying to get the White with the episode before that where they're all walking off like a Sam Peckinpah scene or something.
Oh, you mean the part where they
Where they
form
don't
some
wear
ki-
hats
where they
to the
form
coldest
some kind
place in the
of
world?
suicide squad?
where they're apparently taking a stroll that takes a couple of hours or maybe a couple of days. Who knows?
Well, whichever it is.
So really quickly, we slightly skipped over the Gendry?
Oh yeah.
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 Re-entry where
He's back and
he
he's
just happened to be
gone.
back.
The
he just happened to be
Re-Gendry.
back, but he also had a hammer, like his dad, which
Yeah.
was super impressive.
Yep. Which is
Going into episode 6, he's the only person I wanted to live. I need him to live.
wow.
He was,
Right.
he was the
I
one
waited 4 years for his return.
It's
so-
nice to know there's some like hardcore holdouts for House Baratheon holding on to this
You know
whole
what? I
fucking
think
thing
he's
in the
gonna sit
end.
on the throne, guys. I'm waiting for it.
By the time this is over, the only person sitting on that throne is Nymeria.
It's like, fuck you, I like Bambi.
I just don't know why we've never found out before now that Gendry is Barry Allen. Because that motherfucker can run like the wind. It took them days to get out to where they end up, and they're like, go back.
Yeah,
Send a raven.
Oh no, here's what happened.
I think he actually just ran to where Daenerys was. He didn't send a raven.
Here's the thing that you don't understand. When he was put onto that boat and told to row for King's Landing, he didn't row. He got out and kicked. He could have just had a water skier right behind him on the way back to King's Landing.
As much as over the seasons I've seen people find things to complain about, I've always been like, come on, you're nitpicking. I will admit the time crunch from this sequence really stuck in my craw.
Yeah.
I assumed they had been like holed up on that little island for at least a couple of days because it was long enough for the water to refreeze.
Yeah,
I would think
could have
2 or
been
3
better
days,
clues
at
than
least.
that. There have been times where people have complained about how quickly they've gotten across Westeros, and more often than not, you can say, well, no, there's clear background indications that time has changed, it's taken longer. It's kind of like arguing about how long it took to get to.
Why didn't they just fly the eagles to Mordor?
Yeah,
Fuck off. That's why.
There are subtle signs about how long it's taken. And this one, even the showrunners are like, yeah, we kind of fucked that one.
Yeah, that it was. I can't find a way in my head to make it work. All the time, him to get back to the wall, him to send a raven, her to get the raven, her to fly up and get there, and not to mention know where they are.
Yeah. Well, she probably all she really had to do was
pretty
fly
sure
over the wall and look for the biggest concentration of people.
She's a living
Yeah.
GPS.
Well, for all those things to have happened, and for her to actually rescue them, it seems like it would take maybe 48 hours.
You would think, yeah.
But in real
I don't-
Westeros time, probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If I'm being real.
Yeah.
I'm thinking those dragons can fly pretty fast.
Yeah, but the
The
raven
dragons,
can't.
but then Gendry, and then the Raven.
Yeah, the Raven probably had to do it really.
Maybe
So
they-
get it to Winterfell to Highgarden.
Maybe they used a giant dragon-sized raven that we have
a
not
whole nother
previously
thing.
seen before.
From Winterfell, if you look at the map, I love. Okay, they have the most brilliant opening of any show ever. If you look at the map in the beginning, Dragonstone is not that far from Winterfell.
No.
Yeah.
It's so. I mean, if they got if they sent a raven from the wall,
How far is it as the crow flies?
Straight down.
yeah, actually, they probably would have sent it directly, because if you look, it was like going to Winterfell would be out of the way. I mean, unless a raven couldn't make it all the way. And it seems like they have in the past sent ravens all the way down to King's Landing from the wall, because there have been messages.
Oh, yeah, no, they definitely have.
Yeah. I mean, so it's not like you'd have to relay.
Well, the whole, isn't the whole quote-unquote continent about the size of the
Great
UK?
Britain?
Yeah, which is, 300 miles across at its thickest.
Well, sure, some big seasonal differences, if that's the case, I mean...
Have you ever been to New York State?
Yes, but still, bigger seasonal differences
Have
than
you ever
that.
been through parts of Texas?
Still, once again, bigger seasonal differences than that. To almost
Dallas.
Look, we're also talking about a place where winter lasts for 10 years. So I think meteorological parallels are not something we can draw here.
Well, all I'm going to say is I still thought it was a little shaky, but also
No,
shaky was the
I will
decision-
admit this whole season has definitely I think there is a legitimate complaint to be had in. Well, okay, you're wrapping things up. I understand. You only got 7 episodes, and now you only got 7 more left. But yeah, they're like, cut, chop. We've been moving at a glacial pace for 7 years. Now we're going to wrap it up.
The tonal change, and I'm like, guys, it's the last 2 half seasons.
What are you going to do?
What the fuck did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah.
Of course things are moving faster. I mean, they're like, but I wanted more long, stretched-out character development. You've had it for 6 seasons.
Yeah. All the characters you really love, they're dead. Move on.
Yeah, actually, I heard someone writing a whole thing. He's like, I didn't think there were enough big character meaningful deaths this season. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, you're going to see almost all of them die.
Everybody's going to die next year.
I'm pretty sure you can't get bigger than Viserion.
Yeah.
They killed a dragon.
Literally.
There are only 3 in the world, and they killed 1.
Not to mention,
and then the Night King got his Yu-Gi-Oh dragon, blue-eyed white dragon. One person listening got that joke.
Who hasn't been waiting for them to knock off fucking Peter goddamn Baelish since the end of season 1? You're like, will somebody fucking figure out that this guy is bad and kill him?
As soon as Short Eye showed up, it's like, that guy's gonna die. He's got the child molester's dash.
Short Eye?
Littlefinger.
Oh, yeah. He's Kevin
been
Spacey
after a
House of Cards of this
Yeah,
world.
he was after a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of pre-logged it in the second episode when they showed Bran and Arya and Sansa walking through Winterfell together, and he was scared. He was shitting his pants in that episode just watching them.
Because
He should have left then. He
really should have used that moment to come up with a better defense than, I really wanted to fuck your mom. And I wanted to fuck you too.
that was not great. His defense, his self-defense was not well executed.
Yeah,
This is why the judge always says, get a lawyer.
Yeah.
And that little eye shift he did as soon as they said his name was huh?
And the moment he realized he wasn't going to be able to talk his way out of it, so he runs over to the guys. I demand you take me out of here. I'm sorry, you can't fast travel when enemies are nearby.
Can we talk about how their need to prove to Cersei that there was an imminent threat led to that imminent threat being 85 million times more imminent?
Yes.
Because that's what I was thinking when the
move,
wall
X-Lax.
came down at the end. I'm like, if you hadn't gone on this wild white chase to get this thing to bring back to Cersei, then you would still have 3 dragons and the Night King would have 0.
My entire thought was, okay, well, first of all, when what's-his-name got bit by the bear, I was like, hey, wait for the dude to die, you got yourself a white. But as soon as they grabbed that one of them, I was like, all right, you lassoed yourself a skeleton, get the fuck out of there. It's like, no, you don't want to go fight the rest of them. Get the hell out. Attach a rope to him and drag his ass.
Daenerys also has had a sense of kind of invulnerability going on for a while now.
That's true.
Hey, I can't be beat. Look at me. I got dragons. Everybody loves me. I'm obviously destined to be the queen, which is why I think she might actually not make it to the end of the next season.
I don't think the meeting with her and Cersei, it really showed how unprepared she was for Westeros political scene.
Yeah.
If you notice in that scene, she probably has 2 or 3 lines.
Yeah, she's extremely
She
I don't know,
She looks at Tyrion.
but-
when there's a dead silence and she needs someone to talk, she looks at Tyrion like...
That's
she doesn't
kind of
know how
the
to
way
talk.
that she's handled shit since Drogo died, is she kind of comes up and says, I'm just a silly little blonde who happens to own some dragons. What's going on here? And then the next minute you're like, oh, by the way, I speak fucking Valyrian. Dracarys! You're like, ah!
She's great one-on-one. She's great setting people on fire. fire, but when it comes to actually meeting with another world leader and
they've established that she's
having
really
conversation.
a little hard on learning the local customs and not necessarily alienating the people around her because of her very strong sense of morality, superiority, colonialism.
Next time I level up, I got to put some points in putting people on fire. That sounds actually useful. It worked out well for her.
They mentioned it before. I think Egon, or not Egon.
Ray?
It doesn't matter who said it, but
Bankman?
someone said that she's a conqueror. She's a conqueror to a new land.
Yeah.
And she's not used to Westeros. She's still getting used to it. In Essos or wherever she was, it was all easy for her. The slave owners of Marine, it all felt easy to her. But now she's at Westeros and she has a new hand who's telling her, "Oh, we have to be diplomatic," and she doesn't know how to handle this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, she before has always handled things by just doing what
blood and fire.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which admittedly has worked out pretty well so far.
And
it has.
The first time that ends up working against her is when she goes against Tyrion and decides to go take out Jaime Lannister's army, and her dragon gets injured. You know?
I think she was right to accuse Tyrion of defending his family, even if it was just Jaime, because I do think Tyrion, as much as he hates his father and hates his sister, he still loves his brother, and he loves his nieces and nephews when they were alive.
Yeah,
he has loyalty still to them.
Yeah,
he
never
doesn't want his house
family.
wiped out.
Yeah, and I
he
think
certainly doesn't want to see his brother die. Like, you know, when they were on the battlefield and he made a point of being there. I think because he felt responsible.
And he was the one yelling at
like,
Jaime.
You fucking idiot.
You're charging a dragon. Stop it. Surrender already.
And then Brienne, fuck loyalty!
That was amazing.
I love that. It's maybe my favorite single moment of the whole season.
Brienne and Tormund have to live because I
they
want
have
to see
giant babies who conquer
I want to see their
I need
giant
this.
ginger babies.
Exactly.
Yes.
And a friend of mine pointed out on like a little Facebook thread, because I'm sure you've all seen that little meme of like, you know, it's the shot of Brienne on top and the shot of Tormund on the bottom, and it's the little bit about her like when she was young and being taunted by the boys, and then I realized I was like the ugliest girl in the world.
And they were calling her Brienne the Beauty.
Yeah, and then underneath it's Tormund, and he's saying like, I have a beauty waiting for me in Winterfell, tallest woman you've ever seen. And a friend of mine in one of those little threads on Facebook pointed out like, yeah, and he's not making it that like, oh, you know, she's not conventionally beautiful, but I love her anyway kind of thing. It's like, no, he really looks at her and sees the most beautiful woman he has ever seen.
What's the name of the little girl commander?
Lyanna
Oh,
Mormont.
Lyanna Mormont.
Yeah.
Lyanna Mormont.
You know, her old people are like the bear people,
Yeah,
right? And the mythology is that possibly some of them, or Roline, can actually transform into a bear.
Yeah.
And Tormund says, I had sex with a she-bear once. So there's a fan theory that she's Tormund's daughter. I'm just saying, I think it's hysterical, won't add up to anything, but it made me laugh out loud when I heard it.
You know, honestly, it's a fun idea, but I honestly suspect that Tormund has no sense of metaphor.
I suspect you're right.
I think when he says, I fucked a she-bear, I think he really found a polar bear. And I was kind of waiting for that moment of, like, when the zombear attacked them, is going to go like, Macy?
I also was going to throw out here another great moment when Theon finally just gets his balls is the inappropriate term.
Yeah, that's how
when
I
he
put it.
reveals the eunuch superpower.
Yeah, the eunuch superpower. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. See, go ahead and kick me in the groin. Nothing, right? Fuck you, buddy. Laugh out loud. Funny.
I was not expecting that. Honestly, I thought it was going to be his constant getting back up was going to make the guy finally like realize either I'm going to kill him or I'm going to give in, and then they were going to have respect for each other. I didn't expect it to be like I'm going to kick you in the balls, and that's going to not only not hurt you, it's going to give you Hulk strength.
And then he'd be Cool Hand Greyjoy.
So, my greatest fantasy is hoping that Yara and the Mother Sand Snake will come back next season angrier than ever. Like,
I know, you've got a sand snake thing going on.
I've got a sand snake. I've loved them since day one, since they killed all the men.
Yeah, I've always been. Yeah, I was.
I'm moving away from Kim on the couch.
It would have been nice if they'd given us more.
I think they're coming
stuff to
back,
do with
man.
Dorne.
They ended season 6 with girl power, and I think they're going to start season 8 with the same thing.
Well, this whole season has been the women are in charge now.
Yeah, because all the men have all died. It's like Oleana
They've been
said.
impotent.
Yeah.
All the male leaders have all been slowly whittled off, and everybody else has managed to survive. And Oleana even says, "I've outlived every clever. Like I've known hundreds of clever men. I've outlived them all. Why? Because I never fucking listened to them."
And oddly, the ones who are still alive are those who value real truth. Jaime Lannister,
and they're also all in secondary
Jon Snow.
positions. They're
Tyrion.
all, with the exception of Jon Snow.
Well, Tyrion, who's learning now,
Yeah.
is like, wait, no, what are you doing telling the truth? This is a bad idea.
Well, and not only that,
no, it's not.
But both, John and Jaime have belonged to organizations where you're not supposed to fuck anyone.
True.
Doesn't mean they don't, but
Let's give Jaime a hand.
One of the
well done.
One of the moments that I really loved in this particular season was that first time that when Daenerys arrives at Dragonstone and she's kind of assembled her council around that awesome large dolomite table there where she's got the map of everything. It's in that first scene, it's all the women doing the talking. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you ever want to see any scene that passes the Bechdel test with flying colors, that is it. It's literally the men are standing against the walls, the women are the ones strategizing and planning. And
against another woman ruler.
Yes. And to me, that was if you needed to distill this season thematically into one scene, that's it.
Jon Snow has always understood the value of keeping his fucking mouth shut, though, especially when other people are talking about big things. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, no, he wasn't
but
there.
Nonetheless.
That was when basically it was maybe you should, call up this Jon Snow and get him to come here and bend the knee.
Tyrion spoke during that scene too.
He did, but he was in the secondary
he was
position.
Specifically called on. It wasn't like he was speaking up. It was they were all talking, and then she said, "All right, you all have come up with the plan. What is it?" And that's Tyrion's cue to talk.
Yeah. It was they're all in the power positions around that table, and the guys are acting in the advisory positions. They're standing around. They're pitching in every now and then.
Speaking of secondary roles, how do you all feel about Clegane Bowl?
The
Mountain versus the Hound.
I
love. They had
down.
one of the best.
He thought it was going to happen hours
Everybody
before.
thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Even online today,
Really?
the two of them have been talking smack about each other like a wrestling event type thing. I know I can take him type of stuff.
Do you think the mountain is there any mountain left in that zombie thing?
There's clearly some intelligence left because
he stepped forward.
He stepped forward
when he saw his brother.
But also in the scenes with Jaime and with Tyrion, he responds to nonverbal cues.
Yeah.
So he clearly has some intelligence.
Well,
left.
the question is, personality-wise, is there any? I think
I
that
don't
what you
think
were
the mountain
asking.
had much of a
I was about to say it was just more or less,
speaking
kill raping
as a
thing.
character who had 3 actors playing him, it's hard to get down.
Yeah.
His
At this point, though,
personality.
he's Sandor Voorhees.
Yeah. That's true.
My whole thing with the Clegane Bowl is okay, well,
Get hyped!
it would be cool to see it, I guess.
It's gonna happen next season.
But the thing is, we have had so very little development of a conflict between those two characters. It's been talked about. We know that,
the burn
way back
on
in...
the burn on his face.
We
is
haven't
so
had
much
development between them, lobbying together, but we know their backstory. We know how much being burned
And we've seen
affected the Hound.
But we haven't...
And we know how vicious the mountain is. So,
but
just
we
those
haven't
2
really
things.
seen anything about it since season 1.
It
came up,
Yeah.
it was acknowledged, it was here's their backstory, and then let's get on with the rest
Well,
of
they've
the
developed the
story.
Hound
And
so much as a character, we want him to have a victory.
Well,
and
also-
this for him is a victory.
And also, the mountain... There's a reason why we call him the Mountain, and it's because he's always been an elemental force.
Yeah.
He's never
Unstoppable.
it has always been made very clear that the Mountain as a character is less of a character and more of a force of nature, metaphorical and literal. So we aren't going to get that conflict because that's not what he is there for. He is there to be this scary thing waiting in the wings. And so, and especially the more that we found out about the Hound with his travels with Arya and with his brief attempt to hang up his sword, we've now seen how much this has all affected him. So his taking on the Mountain is going to be closing his particular circle. And honestly, I thought it was going to happen in the season finale, and I was going all right, yeah, okay. The Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor thing was not the fight of the century. The fight of the century is going to be on HBO!
Actually, that moment, them confronting them felt like one of those, like, when the pre-show, like, conversation thing. I was like, okay.
It was better than McGregor-Mayweather.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah, the fight was kind of...
I would love to, for the record of the McGregor-Mayweather, I would love to see them fight under MMA rules and see what the fuck happens. Just saying.
They were trying, but that's getting off topic.
Yeah.
Now, my only question is, is it going to require the Hound to overcome his fear of fire to kill the Mountain? Because he's now chemically white.
And we also, we know that, like, fire kills the undead, so, like, that seems
He's going to have to confront that fear an hour later.
I'm wondering if the way that Qyburn made the Mountain undead is the same way that the Children of the Forest made the Night King.
Speaking of Qyburn, he looked very interested in the White Walker's arm.
Get you a guy who looks at you like Qyburn looks at a white
Part
hand.
of me wanted to be like, give this guy a part of him, and maybe he can find some type of cure or something else.
I don't think Qyburn ever thinks of cures.
No, that's true.
All right, one thing real quick before we move on to two big ending points before we go into the preview of what happens next. First off, Benjen Stark coming out of nowhere. I was like... Obviously, Jon Snow put very little points into his summon ability because he's got a first-level summoning there. I was like, Benjen Stark? Are you kidding me? Really? That was weird...
After having gotten the dragon, he ran out of points.
Season 1.
Yeah, it was like a Deus Ex Machina, except nothing about it felt like a victory from God. It was like, hey, I'll give you 30 seconds. That and the weird bit with Jon's sword's eyes opening up as he falls out of the water.
That was just a trick of the light. Yeah, the eyes have always been the whole thing is hollow.
Okay.
So yeah.
So it was just a trick of the light. Okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that. All right, so moving on to the real big things. First off, Jon Sand just saying, how do you pronounce it?
Aegon Targaryen.
Aegon Targaryen.
How does everybody feel about this whole rather convoluted series of things they got to get us
Before we get into the really deep concepts, Rhaegar already had one son named Aegon.
Yeah. He literally likes to name Aegon.
How are you going to name your second son Aegon? Well,
if you look at the Targaryen line, from Aegon the First, it's like every other guy is
Aegon.
It's like the British kings with Henrys.
Yeah,
they just
one of my
really
favorite
like
things
that
about Daenerys is Daenerys Stoneborn, first of her name, and it's like Aegon, 17th of his name.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure that
not as impressive.
I'm pretty sure that the Aegon who what's his name, the Maester who was also a Targaryen, who was the Maester of the Night's Watch, was also Aegon.
Yes.
He is Aegon of the Dunk and Egg stories.
Well, to steal a bit from Esquire that actually explains this of all the things I explained it as best as possible. I'm just going to read out what they said. See, Robert's Rebellion, the Great War that took place about 17 years before the events of Game of Thrones, was largely built on the idea that Prince Rhaegar abducted Lyanna Stark and brought her to the Tower of Joy and Dorne. The two were actually in love, however, despite what everyone believed, and was joined in legal marriage in secret, which is what Bran went back in time to see. This means Jon's claim to the Iron Throne is, in fact, legal, because they were their parents. He's not a bastard. They were legally married. After Samuel Tarly conveniently remembers this detail, which Gilly had pointed out in passing, Gilly gets no credit.
Yeah, Samuel stealing his wife's work there.
And then Bran goes back to check it. It checks out, meaning that Robert and Ned Stark's entire rebellion was built on a lie, or rather it was built on two dumbass kids who ran off with each other and kind of just let a war happen.
See, I want to know more about that. I want to know if it was a misconception.
I feel like Tywin had a big part of this because he was the hand of the king during the Mad King's reign.
Yeah.
And also, I could just see him whispering in the Mad King's ear, like, oh, your son kidnapped this person, and people want to fight you, and they want you to die.
Yeah. I don't know about
you should just kill the Starks, and we'll squash this whole thing.
I don't know about that. I think part of it had to do with the fact that Robert Baratheon was just like, he touched my stuff!
Well, and not only that, but
there were many elements,
like,
but Robert was not a good...
What happened after Lyanna and Rhaegar ran off with each other is that Ned's father went and brother Brandon, who was his older brother, who should have been the next Lord of Winterfell, went to King's Landing, and the Mad King Aegon burned them alive. And it's kind of hard to unpack that.
What I'm saying is Tywin was the hand of the king when this all happened, and your hand is supposed to advise you.
I kind of suspect at that point.
These things.
I suspect at that point Tywin is kind of like General Kelly trying to control Trump.
Yeah.
Or Tywin is Stephen Bannon trying to control Trump, and it's kind of like that.
Whoever trying to control Trump. Good luck with that, by the way. All right, so, like, obviously that's going to be a big game changer. Also, here's another thing that people have had a lot of problems with, and this has to do a lot with stuff that was written in the books and stuff that was written in the series, was the bringing down of the wall by an ice dragon. A lot of people have real problems with that being a thing that should happen, and honestly, there have been spoken things throughout the show that insinuate that shouldn't have been a thing that could have been able to happen, that the wall was protected against things like that. Magically. And
Benjen Stark even said himself, the wall has spells on it, I can't cross over the wall.
Yeah, and then he crosses over the wall. And we never even see it.
Well, there are two things. First of all, they've said in the books and in the show that the wall is failing. Because even when the wildlings crawl over it, you see parts of it crumbling off.
Yeah.
Eastwatch is the most desolate area of the wall.
And then on top of that, you have, with Viserion, fire turned to ice. Mm-hmm. We have an inversion of the natural order. And so that sort of abomination can be kind of seen as this is so unprecedented that it overturns everything.
Much more powerful magic than
and also because they haven't established things like the Horn of Dragons or whatever that the Night King supposedly has.
Which
and a lot of stuff in the books.
The horn that is much talked about is literally the cover of the next book is a big horn. And we really have seen almost no reference to that here.
Yeah, this is an area where they've really gone off book. I mean, Euron Greyjoy is way more of a presence in the book series, and amongst other things, he never shows up to Cersei and says, "Hey, I want to fuck you. How do I do that?" He's actually going to Essos to try to bang Daenerys. Mm-hmm. So that's his whole thing, and he gets caught up with another Red Priest
in the books.
Yeah. So this is they have gone way the hell off book with a lot of these. It was never Sansa never got married to the Boltons. It was Sansa's maid, not Jane Poole. Sansa's maid. I want to call her Jane Pine. Something. Who was sold to him as Arya Stark. And so there have been some significant differences. So the stuff that's in the book, you can't look at the book as more than a vague guidepost at this point.
True, fair enough.
The writers of the show have even said that at this point we're separating from the books. Don't take the books into consideration from this point on.
Although they did get pretty specific notes from Martin saying these are the basic plot points of what's going to happen.
They knew where he was going.
Yeah.
And
but how they get there is their own prerogative.
Yeah. They hadn't hit the big ones like Hodor. That's one that they made a point of saying, this is Hodor's fate, and this is why he exists.
Right. All right, so let's move on to things to expect from Season 8. I made a little list based on things that I thought were reasonable that people suggested online, and a few I just thought were funny. First off, Jon's going to ride a dragon.
Yes, finally.
It's now that we know he can... We're
oh, dude, we just watched him do it.
Yeah. At the point that this happens, I will have waited 8 years to see this. He better ride a dragon, and it better be amazing.
Also, I can tell you, the moment that episode was done, the #1 search on Google was Jon Snow butt workout.
Jaime is almost certainly going to join up with Daenerys and Jon. In the books, he was done with her completely and ripping up her letters and throwing them in the fire by a feast of crows.
With Cersei?
Yeah, with Cersei. I'm sorry, what did I say?
You didn't specify.
He's going to be part of their group. I think.
I think that's kind of that was the implication when he left at the end of the last episode.
I think we're going to see a fire versus ice dragon fight for certain.
Yeah.
It's going to be all kinds of badass. I think I mentioned before. I think we're going to see Arya and Sansa get to do some more cool shit together. I think they're going to have another couple cool moments. It's like, wow, as a team with both of our strengths, we actually play. I
think Arya is going to be the. I think Arya is going to be the Varys to Sansa's Lady of Winterfell.
Indeed,
I think she's going to be the Lady of Whispers.
As we said, the Clegane Bowl will happen.
Get high.
Words that Sandor says to his brother, "That's not how it ends for you, brother. You know who's coming for you. You've always known." Give me the chills.
Badass.
I loved it. Did Tormund Giantsbane and Beric Dondarrion survive the fall of the wall? I say
Tormund
definitely.
damn well
Tormund must have.
Yeah, we see in the Dragon Tearing the Wall, it's still a big part of the wall that's still
and they're running in that direction. They're not running towards the ocean where the the actual big part of the wall felt. They were running in the opposite direction.
And there were a whole lot of people running towards the wall with shovels. And Tormund!
Yeah, it's like the idea that they're not going to show at least one of those deaths is just like, well, that's just the weakest T writing out there.
Tormund's been a character for 4 to 5 seasons.
Yeah.
He gets a good death.
Yeah.
It's not going to be buried under ice.
Well, and now that Sam, who is the best researcher there is of information, has the ultimate research tool, the internet is calling him Bruegel. Brad. Those guys are going to end up being mainly used as an exposition device for the last season, but I think that they'll have some cool moments nonetheless. Sam's fate is to kind of be the guy who knows how to use Bran's power, who works in tandem with him. Theon will finally get to kick ass and rescue Yara, murder Euron, but probably die in the process of doing it.
If he dies while saving his sister, that'll be a great death for him.
True. Although it's going to be another reminder that he tried to fuck his sister, too, because...
Before he knew who she was.
Even so.
He got a finger in. But,
basing this partially on what's predicted for the books. Oh my god. Got a finger in. Shame on you.
He did.
The Golden Company, which is the bank's, mercenaries in the books, apparently, I guess they either are predicted to portray Cersei or they already did. I have not caught up on the books, but the idea being is that ultimately they are mercenaries, but that for pay, but they're also opportunists. This is not going to work out.
At this point, I kind of see Euron just going well, fuck that. I am gonna find an island, and we'll all go down, have a pint, wait for this shit to blow over, because I don't see them bringing in that big of an element to deal with.
What else does Euron have to stay for? Yeah. I mean, the only thing that he has, interest-wise, is the hope of fucking Cersei.
Become the king.
And Cersei is very, she's very convinced of her own fuckability. It's no one walks away from me.
Yeah, true. But I think that we're going to see with that Golden Company storyline, I think we'll see the reappearance of Dario Naharis, actually, who is that mercenary. He's worked with Cersei before.
Yeah.
He's a badass mercenary for hire.
You mean Daenerys.
Daenerys. He's a well-known actor who's actually gotten pretty big lately from his roles on Narcos and other things. I would not be surprised at all to see him return inside that story.
Just don't forget, he doesn't run the Golden Company. He runs the Second Sons.
Yes, but involved inside of all of that. Looking at the list of who's got Valyrian steel, those weapons that can burst into flame and kill ice walkers.
They can't burst into flame, but they can kill ice walkers.
They can kill ice walkers. Yeah. We've got Jon's got Longclaw. Sam's got Heartsbane, which I suspect he'll pass on to someone who can actually use it. Brienne's got Oathkeeper. Jamie's got Widow's Wall, and Arya's got
Widow's Wail.
Widow's Wail, sorry. And Arya's got Cat's Paw Dagger. All of which I think will be used.
What they should do is they should take Widow's Wail and Oathbreaker and melt them down and make fucking ice again.
I just want to see Arya pull a Black Widow on a bunch of the fucking White Walkers and just going crazy, killing them left and right. We will find out what Melisandre went back to Essos to get. Something almost everybody forgot about. She's I got to go get some.
Another egg.
Yeah, possibly so. And then, of course, the big question about the direwolves. We know that Ghost and Nymeria we saw briefly this episode, are still around.
I don't think we're going to be seeing Nymeria again.
But
we will.
Martin has teased in the books, Nymeria is super important in the last book.
It's all
she
about
is
budget.
A big thing. Yeah. But that's ultimately, they've said, the creators are we had a really big Uncanny Valley problem with the direwolves that we just we're throwing money at and just not quite fixing with them being basically the size of small horses, and it just didn't look good on screen.
Yeah, and the Ghost is basically hiding behind the budget.
Yeah, and that could be. I know that Martin has said repeatedly, yes, they will be very pertinent towards the end, so I expect we might see one important scene with them. I mean, I don't know if they're going to fly in like the Eagles in Lord of the Rings, but, they'll be instrumental in some way towards the end. So those are...
and Bran didn't have any, other than, he's warging all over the place with ravens, but, he hasn't warged in anything else, so...
By the way, what do you think about the theory that on some level Bran is the Night King?
I think that's dumb.
He will eventually become Viserion.
Mm-hmm.
because he has to fly at some point.
Warg into him.
He'll warg into him. It's a prophecy that he will fly at some point, and it has to be, I think, Viserion, maybe Rhaegal?
Yeah.
Maybe. Definitely not Drogon.
I think Viserion is more
He's
of an
not
option.
the Night King.
Now, here's my prediction. I think that Daenerys is going to discover that Tyrion betrayed her.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I think Tyrion knew that Cersei was going to hold back the army, and because there is still that prediction that is being held over Daenerys that from the House of the Dead, you will be betrayed 3 times, once for gold, once for family, and once for love. And we've seen 2 out of the 3, and I think that the third one for the once for love is going to be for love of family.
Yeah, you don't think it's Jaime betraying her?
No, she's told.
Way.
No, Daenerys was told that she would be betrayed.
Daenerys, I'm sorry. Yeah, because like there's obviously when we see the way Tyrion's acting when he's like, outside hearing the boots knocking going on with Jon and Daenerys, he's like, yeah, fuck. He's obviously got feelings. He's got feelings.
Well, yeah, but I think the love that Harris is talking about is Tyrion's love for his family will cause him to betray Daenerys.
Or has caused him to betray Daenerys.
Yeah,
but like
not
I said,
that he loves her and will betray her.
I know what he's saying. I'm just saying that was the other thing I've heard people discuss. Like maybe he will, maybe even by accident almost, betray her because he's jealous of her relationship with Jon.
I took that moment there. It could be read that way, but I took that moment more of like, these are some nice kids. Gosh, I really like her. But I have to stand with my family when it comes down to it. Like, there was that moment of, like, where he was unhappy with himself and what he had to do. What he felt he had to do.
If we're talking about Tyrion's hallway scene, outside of the bedroom, on the boat, I really strongly feel like Bran sent him a raven with all of the information that we heard in the final couple minutes. And he's just I don't know. Should I step in or?
Well, especially if
he seems really conflicted about it, like a back and forth.
Heir.
Yeah, he seems really conflicted, and up until that point, he's never seemed conflicted. He's always been the hand of Daenerys. He's always seemed like he's fighting for her side, and I mean, maybe he could be doing something shady with Cersei, but I don't think Tyrion's a shady person. I think that scene is all about him knowing extra information that would mess up their hookup.
I really hope you're right, because I don't want to see Tyrion betray Daenerys.
If he does betray her, I think he would honestly believe it's for her own good.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be. Anybody else have any more predictions? Anything else they want to bring up before we wrap it up?
Should we guess who's going to sit on the Iron Throne?
Sam Charlie.
Gilly.
The Night King.
Yeah.
Okay, honestly, the Night King could be it.
I've got one question. Who do you all think the Valancourt is?
Who?
The Valancourt is the person who is destined to kill Cersei.
Oh, there's a lot of talk that
Jaime.
it's Davos. I've heard things of saying there's things that line up, at least in the books, with the predictions. Like he falls under the category of a lot of things of being this person.
He can't fall into the books though. The books are not going to tell us what's going to happen.
But it does beg the question: what is going to go on with Davos in the final season? He's been here since season 1.
I really just think he's meant to be Jon's advisor.
Yeah,
it's conciliary. He's Tom Hayden.
I don't think he has
He's
a grand
totally
scheme. I think he kind of, for lack of a better term, blew his wad in the second or third series when he was Stannis' advisor, and it was this whole backstory of his family and how he was, a pirate and lost his fingers, blah, blah, blah. His story's told. He's still kind of hanging around.
I think his story is that he knows he's a secondary character.
Yeah.
He does not. He wants to be support, not
he's
lead.
I saw an interview with him recently. He's like, I just want to make it to the last episode. That's what he said.
I think it would be cool if it were Arya, because Cersei is on her list.
I don't think Arya has ever wanted to rule anything.
No. She just thinks she's going to kill the bitch.
That makes it unlikely. Are you talking about who would kill Cersei?
Just to kill Cersei.
Yeah.
Not to take her place, but just, if anybody's going to kill Cersei, I think it should be Arya.
I mean, there would be a certain amount of irony that feels very writerly if either Jaime or Tyrion was the one to do it. Mm-hmm. Considering Tyrion with that conversation, him and Cersei, her insisting you destroyed this family. He's like, I didn't mean to. And then he is forced in a position to have to mean to. Or just the irony of Jaime who is the Kingslayer, having to do it again.
Given the two scenes with Cersei and Tyrion and then Cersei and Jaime, where they're both in that position where she's like, all I need to do is give the word and the mountain will kill you on the spot.
Right.
How many of you were in this, like, after the scene with Tyrion and she lets him go, how many of you were, like, this close to being like, oh, fuck, she's gonna kill Jaime? Because how many times can this happen the same way in one
Yeah, I honestly thought,
episode?
I was like,
oh, fuck.
Jesus, if
we're
this is going to be
say
the
goodbye to
final
Jaime.
death, it's like...
Well, we were in the last episode, and you're like, they've had this big shocker planned, and they're going to fucking kill Jaime. I'm just going to go, I don't believe it, you know? But, yeah, I'm really glad he's going to make it the last season. I love Nikolai Kajak.
I think as a show, they were just doubling down on the fact that Cersei is a ruthless bitch who would kill either of her brothers
But she's
on a whim.
also this is a conversation that I had with Kat afterwards, is that she's a bad tactician.
Yeah.
No, she's
Because
horrible.
her whole plan... Her plan is predicated on the idea that whoever wins, their army is going to be exhausted. If Daenerys wins, that means she's got at least one dragon left, and honestly, one dragon's all you need, and she's gonna be turbo pissed that she got betrayed.
True.
On the other hand, if the Night King wins,
His army doesn't get tired.
His army can't be weakened because they get replenished every time they kill someone. So not only will they have resurrected everyone that they went up against, but there's also all of the holds and the small folk between them and King's Landing, which means they could easily double their already prodigious army in size, and then show up at a place that is literally full of reinforcements.
This is like playing Queen of the Demon Web pits all over again. God damn it. I didn't
Do you
survive
need some
that,
stitches?
so.
Because that was a deep cut.
All right.
All right, definitively, everyone I think should say who's going to be in the Iron Throne at the end of next season.
I think it's going to end up being Jon, but who's totally devastated by things that he had to do.
I think Jon and Daenerys are going to be king and queen.
Yep, I agree.
I think Sansa.
That's an interesting choice.
Oh, no one. I just think it's going to be great big apocalypse, but winter's only going to reach down so far. And then, like, the last scene is just going to be, like, this palatial spread in Dorne with a bunch of happy bisexuals dancing.
Out of nowhere, they're going to
And Bronn going, I finally got my castle.
I finally got my castle.
Out of nowhere, they're going to introduce a new country called North Korea, and Cersei's just going to start talking shit about them, and then the whole place is going to blow up. That's my prediction.
Are you all, how do you feel about incest at this moment in time?
It's hot.
I'm still a little bit squicked out by the sister thing, but you know.
In fiction,
Hot Nephew's pretty good, though.
Nephew and aunt isn't as gross.
it's funny because, like, you remember watching
sitting this one
watching
out.
that first
Look,
episode.
you could sketch a fucking Fibonacci sequence on that ass. Who would say no?
I just remember watching the first episode, how shocked everybody was when it was revealed that Jaime and Cersei were fucking. And now it's just like everybody's just kind of gotten used to. Well, it's Jaime and Cersei. That's what they do. And the Targaryens married brother to sister for generations.
I mean,
so in this world,
is it any more shocking than when you watch stuff on the BBC about like the kings of the past, and we're like, oh yeah, we know they're fucking their sister, and nobody's screaming about it online.
They weren't fucking their sisters.
You know,
Just
they're
cousins.
Just first cousins.
There's a three
And lots of aunts and uncles.
yeah.
There's a
Lots of
3
aunts and
degrees
uncles.
of separation rule that's instituted somewhere around, I want to say, like 1100.
Not so much in Spain.
Or in
Not so
Austria-Hungary,
much.
for that matter.
Yeah, the Habsburgs, busted loose. Very much the Targaryens of their time.
That's why they had the Habsburg chin.
And the Habsburgs
Yes,
were furious.
we can't really speak all that well, and occasionally our teeth rocks off our nasal passages, but, we can ride dragons, don't you know?
All right, we're going to wrap this one up. I want to thank everybody for coming so much. This was a lot of fun. We'll probably be wrong about half the stuff that we theorized. Probably less so than...
Nope, Dance Party Dorn.
Less so than I am on my Twin Peaks podcast, who are always like, I know this is going to happen. We're like, oh, David Lynch, God damn it. But anyway, thanks so much. And wow, when Game of Thrones is all over, hopefully we'll be able to get back together to talk about how it all went down.
Nope.
And that was not a joke about Daenerys and Jon.
One of us Oneofus.net has been your one-stop shop for all things geek for years. But there's a side to them many of you have never heard. The subscription side. Subscribe and listen to great podcasts like The Breakfast Pub, The Original Gentleman, and the Watch a Movie With Us series. Head on over to Oneofus.net and don't forget your towel.